In today's video, I'm showing you all new Dollar Tree DIYs. This first DIY is going to be using a Dollar Tree planter. This is a great time of year to pick up all those Dollar Tree planters. I grabbed this one for $1.25. I wanted to add a beaded border around this Dollar Tree planter, so to do that, I picked up a silicone mold off of Amazon. When I was searching for these, there's several options to choose from, but I went with this one. I'm going to be placing hot glue into the silicone molds, and as I was doing this, I kind of learned some of the best tips and tricks to make this easier. Now, normally when I'm putting hot glue into anything, a mold or on a project, I always have it on low setting. But I found for this project, it was better if you put your hot glue on a high heat setting. It's going to heat it up more and it's going to give the hot glue a chance to kind of disperse better in that mold. So once you put all your hot glue in and fill up your mold, then you want to take your mold and just tap it down several times. This is going to reduce bubbles, plus it's going to fill up the entire mold. Let this cool completely, and then after it cools, you can pop it out to use in your project. Then all you have to do is change your hot glue setting back to low heat, and then you're going to hot glue a border around about a little bit farther down from the top. And I did this all the way around, cutting one of my glue stick pieces so it fit in perfectly. Then I put another layer around the bottom half and hot glued those in place. Once your hot glue dries, it's time to paint this. So I decided to go with this gorgeous blue spray paint I had. Start on the bottom side and spray paint. That way you make sure you get all around that border area. Let it dry, flip it back over and spray paint. And then you can put in your favorite plant. This time of year, you can pick up a pack of these 6 eggs, and that's what we're going to be using for this next project. What I did to start off is I wanted to spray paint these in a really deep color. So I went in with a hunter green color. Now this project I'm going to be showing you, you can completely customize it. If you like lighter colors, use those. If you want to do white, use that. I was just looking for something in a little bit of a richer tone. So I put all of the eggs into a container and spray painted them on one side. Once that was dry, I turned them over and spray painted the other side. Once you have your eggs completely spray painted and they're dry, you can move on to your next step. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you've probably seen me use a spray paint to create a marble finish, but I've really only done it with like a white and gray color. So I wanted to try to do this marble finish with a gold spray paint. So you want to fill up a bucket of water. Next, I added in the gold spray paint. And I will say this gold spray paint didn't react like it normally does when I do the gray spray paint, because what you want to do is just spray a tiny bit above the water. You want to move it around with a wood skewer. Then you're going to dip your egg straight down in and pull it up. I will say the gold paint I was using really attached and kind of stayed together. So to get around that, all I did was just submerge my eggs underneath the water completely. So I covered the eggs in one pass. Now, if you don't feel like your eggs have enough gold paint or you want to change up the pattern, you can just add additional gold spray paint to the top of the water, dip your eggs in and pull them up. Now put these on a tray to dry and you can style them in your home. I saw a creator on TikTok use a straw hat to cover a vase, and I wanted to see if that same technique would work on one of the Dollar Tree planters. So I picked up a couple of these hats. I ended up only using one, and I just started by unraveling it. It came apart really easily. You just kind of pull it apart. You're also going to need a Dollar Tree planter. I tried to get one that was as straight as possible, but this one did have a lip around the top. I used my X-Acto knife to cut off that top edge. Next, I'm going to start at the top, hot gluing it around the top edge of my planter. I'm gonna go all the way around, making sure it's as straight as possible. Then when it finally connects, I'm going to hot glue it in place. I'm gonna pull it over just a little bit so it covers that previous layer that I put on by about 1 centimeter. And I'll go all the way around, hot gluing it in place, connecting it on the back, and then again, going down a little bit until I get to the bottom edge. Once I'm on the bottom edge, I'm going to set it down flat because I want to make sure I really cover that bottom area, and I'll just hot glue it around the edge. Okay, so now I wanted to make this planter have legs. So to do that, I decided to use some dowel rods, and I was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to attach these dowel rods? So I knew that I needed to cut the dowel rods at an angle. So using a saw, we cut our dowel rods. Now I also needed a wood piece to go inside of my planter, so we cut a circle out of just a scrap wood board that we had. Next, I drilled holes into the bottom of that circle piece as well as the planter. I also drilled holes into all of my wood legs. Using my screws, I started to screw down onto that wood piece that's inside of the planters until I got to the bottom. And then I attached the legs at the bottom. Then I screwed the legs into place. And then if I needed to twist them up just to make sure they were really secure, I did that. I did have to kind of twist the legs around so that they would go out at an angle. Your final step is just to make sure that you position your legs so that your planter will stand upright. And then add in your favorite plant. One of my favorite products on Amazon is this propagation station. It's so adorable. It's perfect for putting out in your kitchen, but I wanted to see if I could recreate it with Dollar Tree items for a little bit less. So when I was at Dollar Tree, I found this wood board that I picked up, and then I also found these gorgeous spring vases. They had them in several colors, but I picked up 3 of the blue. So the first thing I did was work on my board. I added some wood filler to where the holes are, where the string went through the wood piece. Once that dried, I sanded it down. And then I stained my board. To stain, I like to use a paper towel, and I'll dip it into my stain, rub it on my board, and then just pull off any excess with the paper towel. Now, before you add any glue, you wanna make sure your stain dries completely. So wait a day or at least 12 hours. Next, I'm going to add on the vases. So I cut off the ribbons on the vases. Then I added a generous amount of E6000 to the back of my vases and then put them evenly spaced onto my board. Let this dry for another 24 hours. Then you can fill it up with water and add in your stems that you're trying to grow. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is moose. So I had this idea where I really wanted to make a circle candle. So I was trying to figure out what the best way to do that was. Back around the holidays, I bought a silicone mold to make something out of Quikrete. So I thought, what if I found a circle silicone mold? So I found this one off of Amazon, picked it up. It came in a bunch of different sizes. I ended up using the largest 3 sizes to make this candle. I also have a candle melt that I buy off of Amazon, so I will link that for you as well if you're interested. So I started by making these candles like I would any other candle. I set up the silicone molds, and then I placed my candle melt into a pot. This is a designated pot that I have just for making candles, and all you want to do is heat it up until all of your wax is melted. Next, I took the wax melt and I poured it into my silicone molds. Now with these, I felt like it was really important to try to fill them as close to the top as possible. And then you're going to need to make sure you put in a candle wick. I have this huge pack of them. I'll link for you these candle wicks down below as well. But you're going to place the candle wick into your container. And typically what I do is just use a little bit of painter's tape to hold it in place. I didn't do as great of a job. You guys are gonna see that in a minute on the larger one. Try to get your candle wick as much in the center as possible. Another technique I've used before is to just use some popsicle sticks and then tape it in place. Now, before you do anything else with these candles, you wanna make sure that they are completely dry. So I usually let them sit a day so they can be completely cool. Then you're going to pop them out of the silicone molds. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed with them. I felt like they did a really good job. But I did make circle candles that are going to tip over whenever I light them, so I needed to place them in something. I wanted to see that gorgeous shape of the candles. I picked out 2 clear vases from Dollar Tree, and I thought, let's add some Dollar Tree rocks to the bottom. So I started with the natural stones, putting those in. Then I put in some black rocks, and then on top of there, I placed my candles. Once I got the candles in there, I decided, you know what? I don't really like the way the black rocks look. So I pulled it all out. And then I decided, you know, I just want to go with the natural rocks. So I had to separate the natural rocks from the black rocks. But once I did that, I just put all the natural rocks back in. Put my candles on top, and I like it so much better. Here's how this circle candle DIY turned out. Next, I'm going to show you how to use this $1.25 wood piece to create this gorgeous riser. So pick up any wood piece from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some additional boards. Now, these were scrap boards that I had in my house. They were about 1.5 inch in thickness, and I'm gonna cut 2 boards down with my miter saw to create legs. Next, I wanted these to look pretty rustic, so I got out my angle grinder and I had fun just creating notches into that top Dollar Tree wood board. I also created similar notches into the legs that I was going to be using. Next, you're going to sand down all your wood boards to prep them for staying. I wanted this to be a dark stain, so I came in with a dark colored stain, wiping it on with a paper towel and pulling off any excess. Now, once you do that, if you feel like you don't have enough stain, go in and add in a little bit more. I did that with my top wood board. Let your stain dry completely before you add on any glue. Then I'm gonna put E6000 onto the top portion of my legs and set the legs on the bottom side of this riser. Let it dry completely, and then you can use this anywhere in your house. I love using these in bathrooms with soap dishes. This next DIY came about from a shopping trip where I recently was at Dollar Tree showing you guys all the latest items they have, and I found this set over in like the party supply section, and I thought, you know, this would be so cool to use to create like a fluted texture on a vase. So I got a 2-pack of these disposable containers from Dollar Tree. I'm just gonna be using one of them, and I started by placing spackling all around the edge of this container. My goal here was just to get as much spackling on as possible and create like an even look around the edge. Once it was covered with spackling, then I started to use that tool that I picked up to create a fluted edge. So I started at the top and just ran it down to create a cool fluted edge. Now, trust me, this is not going to be perfect, but it's going to give a really cool texture. Now, maybe you might pull off too much of your spackling. That's okay, just put some back on and then run your tool back down. Once you're happy with the way this looks, set it aside and let it dry completely. Once it dries, you need a container to put on top. This is a glass container I picked up at the thrift store. I'm going to add E6000 to the bottom of the glass container and place it on top of my vase. Now, to go a little bit farther with the texture on this, I do want to spray paint. I sprayed the entire vase with the color Sand Dollar by Rust-Oleum. I started by spraying the bottom half, flipping it over, and spraying the top half. Now I wanted to add a little bit of texture, so I had two of those stone finish spray paints. One was kind of like a brown color, and then I had another one that was a white color. So I sprayed that over my vase using that really cool paint turntable that I have. I will link it for you down below because it works so well to really just spin your project around and spray paint it. Now, I did think I maybe added a little bit too much brown, so then I came back in with a little bit more Sand Dollar to tone it down. That's what I love about spray paint, is you can keep adding until you're happy with the way it looks. Once you're satisfied, just let it sit and dry. Now, I will tell you, you can go ahead and add some of those multi-layers of spray paint before they dry. So if you want to add the textures at the same time, if you want to add additional Sand Dollar, you can do that. And here's how the vase turned out. Dollar Tree has these really adorable wood bunnies out right now, and I wanted to set them out together in a grouping. So my idea was, what if I did an ombre look where I got 3 different colors of a blue spray paint? So I headed to Walmart, picked out 3 colors in a light, medium, and dark Walmart spray paint, and then I started on the back side spraying each of the bunnies with 1 coat of spray paint, and then I think I ended up doing 2 coats on the front, just because these bunnies are particle board, so they were really soaking up the paint. I let them dry, and I think they look adorable sitting out. Walmart has this really cool pack of hooks that I picked up on my last shopping trip, not really knowing what I was going to do with them, and they are still out now if you're looking for them, but they come in a pack of 3. Now, with one of the hooks, I wanted to put it on the side of my hutch because I hang my outfits up there every day when I'm just like setting out what I want to wear the night before. I also love to put an outfit here whenever I'm steaming things that I'm going to be wearing, so I really need a hook on the side of this hutch in my bathroom. They are also great to use as like curtain pulls. So you can use command strips and place them onto your wall, and then you can tie back your curtains with these gorgeous looking hooks. Have you ever seen these recipe boxes at thrift stores and wondered what you could do with them? Well, I came across this one that was $1, and I thought it would be perfect to be a nightstand box. I love having a nightstand box where I can just put items in there that I need to get to quickly. So I wanted to DIY this first because it wasn't necessarily the style I was going for. So I started with my orbital sander, sanding down this entire box. I wanted to sand it completely so it was a blank slate. Next, I wanted to add some stain on there. I thought I was going to go with a natural stain. So that's what I added first. I put on the natural stain, pulled it off. After I looked at that natural stain, it was pulling really orange. So I knew that I needed to add some additional color. So I went with a medium tone stain, and I actually put that stain on right after I put on that natural stain. That's one of the cool things about stain, is you can combine them and mix and match them. If you want to sit and, give it time to dry, you can, but you can go in with a different stain. So once I put on that different stain, it really gave that look I was going for, more of a medium tone wood. So from here, let the stain dry completely. Next, I wanted to put a stencil on top because I felt like it needed something. So I have this set of stencils off of Amazon. I will link them for you down below, but I went with the checkered stencil, and using painter's tape, I placed the checkered stencil down, and then I'm gonna be using a light green sample paint that I picked up at Lowe's. You can get any sample paints created that you want. So I'm gonna be using that sample paint. I find with stenciling like this, using a stipple brush tends to work better. there. So I'm gonna get some of my paint and put it out on my craft table because you really don't want to add a lot of paint when you're stenciling. So I stuck my stippling brush into my paint and wiped off any excess, and then I filled in my stencil with paint. Now after I removed it, you can see I only did half the box. I'm gonna let this side dry completely before I do the rest of the box. Then I'll place my stencil back down and stipple around the other side. You may need to go in with a detail brush if you've had any areas that have kind of run underneath where you've put the paint, just to kind of clean up those lines. But after this dries, you can fill this with your essentials that you need by your bedside, and it just looks so great sitting out. Let's put together a wall art. You're going to need 4 of these smaller frames from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need 2 canvases. I went with these abstract ones, but really you could use anything that you like. I'm gonna use the canvas to be the prints that are inside my frames. So I pulled out the backing on one of my frames, and I'm gonna use that as a template to cut out on my canvas. So I figured out what area I wanted to cut, placed the template down, and used a Sharpie to draw around it. I'm gonna do that so I can get 2 prints out of one canvas. Next, I went in to cut it out. Now, where I needed to cut was a little close to the edge, so you may have to pull off your canvas a little bit to get it cut out. Repeat these steps with your other canvas. Now, once you have 4 prints, all you need to do is put them inside of your frames. Now, one thing I wanted to change was I didn't really love the gold color on the outside of the frames, but you can update this really easily with a product called Rub and Buff. So I picked out the gold Rub and Buff that I wanted to use. It's just going to mute that gold down a little bit. Using a foam brush, I applied the Rub and Buff to the outside of my frame. Let that dry, and then to hang these on my wall, I wanted to put them on the shelf in my front room, so I added a command strip to the back, and then I'll just place them on my wall. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite. I love knowing your opinion. And make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.